Hello, welcome to this session. This session is near and dear to my heart because it's working with living composers and it's also unearthing some of our favorite pieces to create new takes and shed some new light on the compositional styles they used. So this session is called Responding to the Classics with Modern Compositions. And I'm so glad to have Dr. Chad Robinson with me here from Texas A&M University-Kingsville. We also collaborated with Dr. Gregory Sanders, who is another composer on faculty at Texas A&M University-Kingsville. We are so lucky to have two, and our students are composing more and more, and I can only guess that's due to being inspired by them. So I was very happy to have Dr. Robinson approach me about playing a piece that was being premiered. This was being premiered in Houston by a clarinetist named Poppy, and he can tell a little more about that. But he asked if we'd be interested in performing it on campus. And I love to let students see what it's like to interact with living composers. And I would do it on every concert if I could. But so we got to work with him putting that together. And then we actually took it to a live on the radio show where they asked some questions. And we paired this with a piece by Gregory Sanders. And that was so much fun. I thought I would share it with all of you because they were inspired by two very different influences that were pivotal in the way the clarinet is used in repertoire. So the very first one was inspired by Debussy's Premiere Rhapsodie and Petite Pièce, which if you're not familiar with the Petite Pièce, you are missing out. It is a fantastic little, we treat it as filler because it's so short, but it deserves its own pedestal in the repertoire. So when he told me that they were influenced by these two pieces, I was ecstatic because I love them. Having studied in France with Guy Depew, it was definitely part of my repertoire and something that I had always appreciated and enjoyed. So thanks to the composer, we have the sheet music here, and he has actually offered to let you all have a downloadable PDF of the score and the piece so you can explore it on your own. While I have the clarinet part keyed up, Chad, would you like to say some things about the piece? Oh, I think you're muted. Darn.
Thank you. I always forget that. Yeah, I mean, I guess I can just talk a little bit about how the commission came about. Poppy Badeau is a London-based clarinetist and an old friend of mine, and she was coming to Houston to give. She was going to be here for about 2 weeks for a series of concerts, and so we decided to do this. The revisiting the past actually came because the concert it got put on, the theme of that concert, which was not up to us at all, we were just kind of an addition to it, was based on this idea of revisiting works of the past or reinterpreting. So interestingly enough, neither me nor the clarinetist originally envisioned this work to be revisiting the past. It was the organization putting on the concert. But it turned out to really work out well because when I asked Poppy if she was interested in doing this, she was very interested in the Premiere Rhapsody and then the Petit piece. And of course, I knew the Premiere Rhapsody, but I didn't know the Petit piece in its glorious 1 minute and 30 seconds of clarinet music. So that's where it came from, and just to give a little bit of background. But I'll leave it there for now and let the piece speak for itself, and then I can talk a bit more about it after.
All right, so that gives you a taste of that piece. We'd love to hear a little more from Chad, and we also have Dr. Greg Sanders for the next piece. So please enlighten us a little more in the process.
Yeah, so like I said, when beginning the piece, when we decided we were gonna that I was gonna write this piece for Poppy, we didn't at first have this plan to revisit works of the past. This came from Rob Smith, who directs Aura at the University of Houston, where the concert would be presented. So when that happened, I hadn't started writing the piece or anything. I had no ideas. So then I had to reach out to Poppy and be like, well, what do you think about doing this? And she said, that sounds great. And so she sent me a whole list of works for clarinet and piano that she had been really interested in kind of throughout her career. Again, I knew the Petit piece, or excuse me, I knew the Premier Rhapsody, but the Petit piece was really just a gem that I found. And it's just a minute and a half of music, but it's absolutely gorgeous. And it has this beautiful lilting dotted rhythm. And so I decided that what I wanted to do with that dotted rhythm was to take it in its kind of smallest form, this motive that's almost imperceptible to belong to any composer because there's dotted rhythms all over the place. But I wanted to take that and then just spin it into a whole new work. And so if it's possible to share my screen, I can try to do that. So I think you can see that now. Yes. So this is just the opening bit from Petit Piece, and it's this lilting dotted rhythm here. Again, that could be really from any piece. We see that type of figuration all the time. And I thought what made it so interesting was to take it, and his entire piece, the minute and 40 seconds, is based really on this rhythm. But I said, well, what if I just take that motive and just spin it into a whole new work and just make completely different decisions every step of the way than what Debussy did. And if I can now find my piece, I think I can share that. So you can see here in what is measured 10, it's that very similar figuration. It's not exactly the same thing, but very similar. And then I start to just kind of use that and unfold it. And then it eventually gets into the piano, comes back through, etc. And I just start to spin the piece doing that. And so I wanted something that would, use Debussy's ideas, but as if I was the one making the decisions about them now. And so I thought that was a really interesting way of doing it. On the other side, as I was composing it, I thought, well, the thing is, I've really made the piece my own, and I'm not sure it has anything that's truly Debussy. So then I took another bit from this piece, and let me see if I can find it here in my score, and then I can show it to you in the other ones. We'll do it the opposite way this time. Have to scroll through. Ah, so here at the end, this is really the climax of my work, where you have this descending line in the clarinet, and then these harp-like kind of figurations in the piano that come through here as well. This is really the big moment of impact, which we just heard at the last snippet of the video performance. This actually comes from what is the middle of Debussy's work, and I think I have that one queued up here to show you. Ah, yes, here. And it's a really short figuration. And again, I've, in this case, really taken the texture of this entire section and just kind of transplanted it into my work. The notes are different, the melody's different, the harmony's different, yet it's similar. So in this case, it's something more like a quote. And so I have this climactic quote from Debussy that I think is very clear if you know the Premier Rhapsody. And then from the Petit piece, this lilting rhythm that permeates my entire work, but yet is a little more, I guess, hidden in where it comes from. It's not as direct a quote because I've changed it so much as I use it. And so I thought this duality in the piece, revisiting works of Debussy's, one via a very clear quote, and then one via a more kind of hidden permutation of his original ideas, original motive for the Petit piece, was really an interesting way to do it. And then, of course, I put the title in French to really kind of drive home the fact that I did want to kind of salute Debussy and these two really beautiful works in the clarinet repertoire that he gave us. So that's the long and short of how I thought about the piece when I was going about it, and how I try to reflect on Debussy and his work in the genre of clarinet music.
Thank you so much. I love that it was Rhapsodie Noir, and it felt like it dove into the symbolism that inspired Debussy and took a little darker edge than we tend to ascribe to him. We're going to move on now to Dr. Sanders' piece, so you can save a little bit of time for discussion and hear from him about his piece. So if we could key up just those first 3 minutes, we'll move on. All right, thank you so much. So, Dr. Sanders, if you'd like to talk some about how Benny Goodman's life and career inspired this piece, we'd love to hear it.
Certainly. Well, Dr. Robinson, I'm kind of embarrassed because I didn't prepare much. I kind of feel like our theory students on a Monday morning with their homework, so because I just didn't do it. But anyway, this piece was written when I heard about Benny Goodman's passing. I used to be a clarinetist many years ago. I was my minor and my master's at, well, then it was North Texas State, University of North Texas, where I studied with John Scott. And I was always enjoyed Benny Goodman's, the quartets and quintets, and of course the big band swing music. And then also with his commissioning, I mean, how many pieces did he commission, the great pieces that we have in the literature? And I don't consider myself a clarinetist anymore. And I was just drawn to his music, and it was kind of an emotional tribute, and I just wanted to do something is basically what happened. And if I remember correctly, I was still a student of working on my doctorates at North Texas, and and actually I did play, I think the premiere, or maybe John Scott did, or Nancy King Sanders did, I can't remember, but anyway, so I came up and this Lamentations, that slow section at the beginning with the little talking about rhythm, the kind of swing, long, short rhythm in there. And then there was where he's basically playing along, and then the flutter tonguings where I kind of imagine, like the stopping of life going through there. And then we, in the middle section, basically break into swing dance. And I was going through a phase then, what I called my recursive dance phase. And recursion is, you just go back, there was starting cell, you go back and you expand and you expand and you go back and you go back. And so that's why we keep returning to that little pattern. And if I could, let me try to share a screen. And I'm not sure this is going to work. And let's see, there it is. And actually I have the score right through here. So we start off and just like these little outbursts of energy just grinding to a halt, like areas like here. And then of course, the swing dance starts at the bottom of the second page, so we can't see everything all at once. Let me scoot over a little bit. One more. So now we start the swing dance, and so we keep coming back to this cell and expanding out, and then it just keeps getting longer, the basic cell. And I use that recursive dance process in several pieces at the time. It was just a phase I was going through. And kind of interesting, Larry Austin, who was my principal composition teacher there during the 40s and early 50s, he played in a lot of big bands and country western bands as well. And he goes, Benny Goodman wouldn't flutter tongue. And so I tried to explain it to him, my imagery that I wanted to use at that spot. I wanted the swing filling, of course, the long, short. And instead of doing, like quarter note, eighth note triplets, I decided to go with the dotted pattern as well, because I wanted that little pulling into, actually kind of similar to what Chad was talking about, pulling into the next beat. So we see a lot of the long and then the short pattern. I'm sorry, I can't find a single one there. So just chopping off and pulling where they're linked together, like right here, into the next one. So it's like still trying to go and go and go on that. And then we come back and it just keeps growing. And then the section right through here, where we come back into basically kind of a recapitulation and just bring the piece to a close on that. But highly jazz, the influence, I really wanted to bring that out, but it's also the lament of the subject matter was also a very key point to me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think we're about out of time, as there's another great session coming up, but those are really great insights into how to use the past today. And it's really cool to see what both of you did, whether it was desired or enforced by an institution. It's very, very rewarding. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.